review of Book 117 about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the CEO of Canada's National Christian Radio Station, no other than Mr. Scott Fehrenbacher.
It's a
Well,
pleasure to be here.
yes, welcome, Mr. Scott on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Very good. And again, thank you for inviting me on your show. I appreciate it. Today I live in Langley, BC. Most of your listeners should know where that is. If not, we're outside of Vancouver here on the west coast of Canada. And I am presently the CEO and president of Worship Road Radio and Worship Road Media. And we are Canada's national Christian radio station and the largest Christian radio station in Canada. We also have the largest faith based music magazine, that interactive magazine, with about 163,000 subscribers. So that's our business. And what we do is try and bring this information into the digital age so it's much more accessible and engaging than traditional media has been in the faith space.
Definitely, Mr. Scott Fehrenbacher. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about faith meets innovations, lesson from leading ministries into digital age. Tell us, how does the call go into all the world translate the digital landscape? Is it online ministry a supplemented strategy or a new mission field in this own right?
I'd say it's a mission field that's expanding in a way that hasn't been done before, at least as effectively as it can be and certainly will be in the future. In my experience over 3 decades in faith based media, uh, we seem to always be lagging in embracing new technologies and ways to get our message out to people. And so that's what we're doing here. And that's really been what my career has been, basically trying to be the nonconformist that introduces new technology commonly out of the comfort zone of most people in this business that are in media.
How do church leaders avoid the pitfall of seeing digital tools or just a new way to do odd things and instead allow innovation to fundamentally reshape how they fulfill their mission?
You know, I think that the answer to your question is not accepting comfort zones, because I think it's so easy to get into a comfort zone. People say, well, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. I would suggest that in the area of media and broadcasting ministry, that if you're not changing, if you're not advancing, you're going backwards. There is no such thing as staying static anymore with the rapid changes. But change is never comfortable, right? Um,
Yes.
I had a mentor once that I was facing this large career decision, and I had a mentor that was helping me think through this for my family. Do I take this new opportunity? Do I stay with what I'm doing because it's successful? Um, and he said, Scott, let me ask you a question. When was the last time God's will was in your comfort zone? And for me, it was very convicting, because our, is our goal to be comfortable, or is our goal to be effective, especially in ministry, to be effective? And so I think that, to answer your question, I think that's really where people get caught up, that it is very comfortable to just stay with what we've always done.
Indeed. And Mr. Scott, what is core? Is faith meets innovation more about mastering new technology or about rediscovering and rearticulating ancient truth in a new language?
Sure. So if you're, and I don't know how many of your listeners and followers uh, have a faith background, but within the Christian faith, it's very clear that one of our responsibilities is to tell people, as they say, the good news. What does the gospel say? And truly, if you felt like you had something of tremendous value that you knew and knowledge, wouldn't you want to share that with people that you cared about? And that's kind of the concept. But if you're only sharing it with people around you, when with just a few changes, you could share it with a whole lot of other people. Why wouldn't you do that? And so that's the one business we're in is Christian music. So Christian music is not only helpful for those that want to follow their faith and be, have their faith validated and reiterated through music, but Christian music has also been shown through even recent research to provide a peace and calm that other music doesn't. And as you know, we're in a time of great uncertainty and upheaval around the world. So a lot of people are looking for Christian music, but it's hard to find in Canada. Uh, Nearly impossible. People have static playlists. Those get stale. Those get old. How do you find out who the new artists are? And so, because Canada is so spread out geographically, it's really hard for the traditional model of a regular terrestrial radio station to service much of the country. So, Canada is perfectly designed for a digital solution. And that allows us to tell people to give access and what I call democratizing access to Christian music from Atlantic Canada all the way to Vancouver Island and all the way up through the Northwest Territories. So that's what technology does for us, and it's been my experience that industries within the faith business are slow to embrace it.
Very slow indeed. And Mr. Scott, what are the most innovative ways you've been ministry use digital tools for discipleship, pastoral care, and community building outside of the weekly worship service?
Sure, and so I think you're probably too young to remember this, but back in the late '90s, when the internet was brand new, I was the CEO of a publicly traded company in Washington, D.C. called crosswalk.com. And at the
Mhm.
time, we spent so much time talking to ministry leaders, pastors of large ministries, prison fellowship, as an example. And we would talk to them about how their ministry needs to adopt the internet, digital tools to expand their presence, to expand their message, and to reach people that need it in ways that their magazines, their brochures, or their TV programs did not. And it was fascinating at the time that people did not embrace the internet. People didn't even believe necessarily that the internet would stick around for a few years. And in retrospect, looking back on that, it seems almost ridiculous that someone would say it. But that's what we were doing at the time. And of course, I'll give you an example. We brought on a gentleman named Charles Colson, who was the founder and president of Prison Fellowship. And this was his very first web based interview, basically doing what you're doing. You're embracing technology in a new podcast format. Back then, we were just doing internet interviews. And so here we are on this interview, and there's this gentleman that calls in from Kyrgyzstan to ask Chuck Colson about some ideas on expanding prison ministries in his country. And it was so interesting to see Chuck Colson just floored that here he was in a brand new medium that allowed a live connection to someone in Kyrgyzstan. And it was funny to recognize him with that aha moment. Oh my gosh, if I evolve our ministry into the internet, we become a worldwide presence. And so that's what a lot of people then didn't figure out and were late to the party. And today that still happens. There's people that just feel that any new changes are something that they don't want to explore, and they drag their feet. But as you know, that was 25 years ago, and today we look back and think, well, that was silly. And so I don't think things have changed. It's just that the technology that we're dealing with has changed, but the same applications apply. That these new technology tools allow us to get our message out far more efficiently and far more effectively.
Effectively and efficiently for sure. And Mr. Scott, how should ministry measure the ROI of its digital effort? This is about attendance numbers or engagement metrics, stories or of transformed lives, or a combination.
Of course. And so the beauty of digital is metrics. For example, I'll give you an example. So my wife loves a church out of Nashville, Tennessee. We go to Nashville quite often, being in the music business, but we do a local church, but she also does an internet church. So that church knows exactly when she comes on, exactly how long she stays on, and how often she comes. There's no sign form you have to put into the collection plate to say I was there. There are perfectly real-time metrics, and the same goes for our radio network here. So I would talk to a station in Edmonton that's a traditional 105.2 station or something like that, and they would tell you, based on our surveys, we believe we have this many listeners. Well, in the digital world, I know exactly how many listeners I have. I can tell you exactly, I'm looking at it right now, where they are around the world, how long they've been on, and I can tell you what platform they're using to listen to it, whether it's a phone app, a smart speaker, a website, Amazon TV. And so metrics is a way that ministries can much better engage with their members, their donors, their followers, because uh, you know exactly what that engagement looks like. And of course, that better engagement allows you to improve your messaging. If you, for example, this church that my wife goes to, if the worship is bad, they'll see people dropping off the broadcast, and they'll be able to say, well, this is when that song started, maybe we shouldn't play that song again. Now you would never know that in a different platform other than a digital one. So ministries, if they have not embraced digital technology, they're missing out on how they can engage with their audience and learn how to engage better with their audience.
Better for sure. And for many church website or social media feed, is it their first impression? How can ministries make this digital front door more welcoming and effective for their community?
First of all, they know what the community is that they're targeting. So you can create in a digital format a target audience that you are speaking to, and you can do that then much more effectively, right? But in evaluating your message, you can see how how effective you were, how that actually passed on, or if it was a swing and a miss, if you will. That information allows you to improve, and not only just improve generally, but improve specifically to where you saw the data tell you that, you need to do better?
Mr. Scott, as the CEO of Canada's national Christian radio station, what are your short term and long term goals?
One goal is that there are so many great artists in Canada that up to this time have had very little opportunity to get their craft, their songs on the air, because traditional stations find it very thin and minimal playlists. Because we're digital, we have no ads. We have none of the fundraising that you'll hear on a regular station. So we have 24/7 music. It's all music. And because we're Canadian, we're seeking out those new artists. Just had lunch with one today. And we're giving them access to listeners, to new audience members that they otherwise wouldn't be able to get. And that's my short-term goal, is to provide tools and opportunities for artists, songwriters across the country that they haven't had before.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Scott, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a CEO like you?
Oh, that's a question I wasn't ready for. I would say, if you are fortunate enough to be in a business that is a heart passion, then you're very fortunate that you can really find reward and and meaning to what you do every day. And with that passion and that meaning, and with continuing education, we never arrive in education. We're always on the journey. And if you put those three things together, you're going to have all kinds of leadership opportunities open the door to you.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. Scott. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
It's nothing that you probably haven't heard of before, but Good to Great is as a book that is very clear in what it tries to get to, and it may not be a comfortable book to read because, um, for example, one of the things it says is that whatever you do, you should want to do something where you can be the very best in the world at what you do. And that might feel like, oh, that's too much, that's too big, but it's not. Doesn't mean you have to get there. But if you feel like you can be the very best at what you do in the world, that's where you should be.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Scott. And tell us, can you share a specific story of how a church embrace of innovation led to a powerful, tangible impact on an individual or the community?
Sure. So, COVID, unfortunately, was, it was something. In fact, there are days when I think about it and think, did that really happen? You know what I mean? But COVID really shook up the whole church machine, if you will, the ways that church and ministries do their day to day planning, their strategic plans, and so forth. And a lot of people have not returned to church. Uh, and that will come over time. But those churches that were able to pivot quickly and still create community with the new digital tools, not to replace church, but to complement what we've always known as church and be that bridge to get back into a traditional church plus the virtual community that we've created. So, there's a church out of Oklahoma City that quickly pivoted toward saying, we can be in your home tomorrow with not only services but small groups. And that church saw COVID as an opportunity to dramatically increase their membership and their influence in presenting the gospel. Others just circled the wagons, got into political debate over vaccines and so forth, and really suffered as a result. So that didn't do them any good by doing that. But this church in Oklahoma City was able to make lemonade, if you will, out of a very weird and very negative situation. And I think that's a good example for all of us because we don't know what the next COVID will be, but we do know something's out there, and I think that that's a good model to follow.
Master Scott, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my Book 101 review in fifth season too, Comedy 101 in second season, and my Food 101 in fifth season as well, Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101 love letters in the fourth season, as well as my movie 101 review and music 101 and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Scott, throughout all these chains, what is one timeless, non-negotiable, or non-negotiable truth of ministry that must remain at the center, no matter the platform or technology?
Very good. I would say that that's a motto that I've carried for years, and it's a motto again that is not necessarily comfortable because that motto is this: have a dream so big, so audacious that without the direct intervention of the hand of God, it's automatically doomed to failure. In other words, if your dream is something that you can do in your own power, it's really not a dream, it's just a goal. But I would suggest if you're a person of faith, that you have a dream that depends on God's intervention to help you reach that goal. And then that becomes the purpose that God prepared us for, and that we don't put him in a box on what we can accomplish.
Mr. Scott, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
Thanks for the offer. I would just ask your listeners if they do like Christian music, check us out on worshiproad.com or download our free app at the Google or Apple Store, Worship Road Radio. And I think you'll really like what you hear.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Scott Fehrenbacher, because if you support him, more and more empowering Christian music to come. So, Mr. Scott, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
More to come, people. See you soon.